Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be exploring the work and mind of Bob Camblin.
Camlin,
Yeah, an artist who wasn't afraid to mix a little philosophy into his paint.
right?
We've got a really great collection of sources today. We've got a collection of his quotes and poems,
Okay.
excerpts from his biography, and a book he illustrated.
Wow.
And even a YouTube video breaking down one of his paintings. So we're going to try to use all these to go beyond just appreciating Camblin's art. We want to understand the ideas that he was grappling with, ideas about perception and creativity and the balance between humanity and nature and all that good stuff.
Yeah, you know what I find fascinating about Camlin is that he's so seamlessly blended art and philosophy.
Uh-huh.
His work often expresses these ideas in these paradoxical statements that really make you stop and think.
Okay.
And you'll see what I mean when we get into some of his quotes.
Now, Camblin's bio reveals he was quite a presence in the art world, right? I mean, he
Yeah.
was participating in huge exhibitions and all this stuff. Do you think that his philosophy played a role in his success?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, his art wasn't just like visually appealing.
Right.
It made people think,
Yeah. Yeah.
It was thought-provoking. And we see that in just like the range of exhibitions and institutions
Yeah.
his work has been featured in. Like, for example,
Mhm.
his participation in the 62nd American Exhibition,
Mm.
painting and sculpture at the Art Institute of Chicago in 1957.
Wow.
I mean, that's a pretty big deal for any artist.
Yeah.
And then there's the mention in Time Magazine's A Year Abroad article in 1958.
Time Magazine, wow.
And his inclusion in the Whitney Museum of American Art's American Drawings 1963 to 1973 exhibition in 1973.
I mean,
So
huge deal. Yeah.
just like a few examples of the widespread recognition that he received.
So it wasn't just about pretty pictures, there were layers to his work. Okay, let's unpack some of those layers,
Wow.
starting with one of his famous quotes. He said, "Look into the atom, you get what you need. Look into magic, and you get what you need. Philosophy and art are in both." What was he getting at here?
Well, I think what Camblin is saying here is that seemingly different fields like science and magic,
Uh-huh.
they have more in common than we think. And for him, art and philosophy sort of bridge those two worlds.
Yeah.
They help us explore that gray area where black and white meet.
It almost sounds like he was seeking a kind of balance, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he talked a lot about finding the perfectly average view of the universe.
Okay.
He wasn't interested in extremes.
Right.
He wanted to find that middle ground, the point of equilibrium.
Speaking of balance, Camblin was deeply influenced by Zen Buddhism.
Right.
And we see this in quotes like, "Zazen, the aimless mind, focuses itself."
Yes, and this idea of aimless focus is central to Zen practice, and you can see how that would influence Camblin's art. It's about quieting that conscious mind, letting go of control, and allowing creativity to just flow naturally.
So it's like meditation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like you're not forcing anything, but just by being present, you achieve this clarity.
Uh-huh. Do you think we could apply this to our approach to our own creative projects or even just life in general?
I mean, it's definitely something to think about,
Yeah.
How can we incorporate that sense of aimless focus into our own lives?
Another quote that struck me was he said, "One must find his own mystic switch."
Hmm.
So it seems to suggest that there's this intuitive, almost mystical element to creativity. What are your thoughts?
Well, Camblin believed that creativity wasn't just about technique or skill.
Right.
It was about tapping into something deeper, this sort of intuitive spark.
Mm-hmm.
He used this term mystic switch to describe this almost subconscious trigger that kind of ignites the creative process.
Oh, okay. So we're starting to see those philosophical underpinnings of his work.
Right.
Now let's look at how this translates into his art. One piece that really stands out is Deadfall Trap Figure 4.
Yes. And we have this great YouTube video that analyzes this painting in detail,
Oh, wow.
plus some insightful commentary from a book featuring Camblin's work. So, these sources will help us connect this specific piece to his broader philosophy.
Perfect. So the video describes the painting as having this dreamlike quality.
Okay.
Muted colors, delicate lines, a very carefully rendered figure for Deadfall Trap at the center of the composition, all set against this vast, empty landscape.
I see it.
What do you think Camblin was trying to convey with this imagery?
Well, the YouTube video argues that the trap symbolizes control.
Control, okay.
It represents that tension between human intention and nature's impermanence.
Okay.
So, we build these traps to impose order on the natural world,
Right.
but nature always finds a way to disrupt our plans.
It's like we can't control everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this ties back to Camblin's fascination with Zen Buddhism, right?
Right.
Where the emphasis is on accepting the impermanence of life and finding peace in the present moment.
I see what you mean. So the trap is like a symbol of our futile attempts to like control outcomes
Yes.
and impose our will on a world that's like operating according to its own rhythms.
Exactly.
That's interesting. It suggests there's a deeper meaning to this trap.
Right.
It's almost as if it's a metaphor for the traps that we create for ourselves in life, you know? The
Absolutely.
things that we cling to that
Right.
hold us back.
The YouTube video goes even deeper, connecting the painting to two I Ching hexagrams.
Too wet?
Hexagrams.
Okay, hexagrams.
Yeah, from the I Ching
Okay,
29 and 23.
okay.
So hexagram 29. The abysmal water talks about navigating life's challenges through flow and adaptability.
It's like water carving its path through rock.
Exactly like water carving its path through rock.
Hmm.
So what do you think Camblin was trying to say by referencing this hexagram?
Well, maybe he was trying to say that instead of trying to control everything, we should learn to adapt and like flow with life's changes.
Right.
But what about hexagram 23? What does that one tell us?
So hexagram 23 splitting apart speaks to the inevitability of decay and the wisdom in letting go.
Hmm.
Even the strongest structures eventually crumble. You know,
Yeah.
it's a natural part of the cycle of life. So Camblin may have been suggesting that acceptance rather than resistance is the key to navigating these changes.
So we're seeing all this interplay between control and surrender, order and chaos,
Right.
all reflected in Deadfall Trap Figure 4. But, you know, Camlin's insights go beyond just this one piece.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
His quotes offer this like window into a whole network of ideas about life and love and authenticity.
Right.
For example, he said, love, art, if experienced, no description is necessary, but often making out is confused with love, and feeling good is not always art. What do you make of that?
Some like Camblin's highlighting the difference between superficial experiences and genuine depth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just like making out can be purely physical art that only aims to please might lack the substance to truly move us.
Mm.
You know, he believed both love and art should be felt, not just observed.
So he's encouraging us to engage with art and life on a deeper level, to
Exactly.
go beyond just the surface, the feeling good,
Yes,
and connect with something more meaningful.
precisely. And this leads us to another one of his thought-provoking quotes.
Okay.
He said, resist and submit, held in perfect balance.
Interesting.
It seems paradox was woven into his way of thinking.
It is a compelling idea. Do you think he could be saying that true engagement involves both critical thinking and like a willingness to let go, to surrender to the experience?
I think that's a great interpretation.
Yeah.
He's suggesting we should question everything while simultaneously being open to new perspectives.
Wow.
It's a delicate dance, isn't it?
It is definitely this balance or tension seems to be a recurring theme in Camblin's work.
Right.
He even applies it to his view of the artist's role in society. He said, historians love artistic madness when it isn't alive and well and attending meetings. What do you think he was getting at there?
Well, you know, Camblin challenged that romanticized image of the tortured artist.
Right.
He believed true creativity wasn't about conforming to some stereotype of eccentricity.
Mm-hmm.
It was about integrating those impulses into everyday life.
But tending those meetings, so to speak.
Exactly.
So he's advocating for a more grounded, nuanced understanding of artists.
Yes.
Not as these like isolated figures, but as active participants in the world.
Right.
And it's about finding that balance again.
Exactly. And this ties into his perspective on perception.
Okay.
He wrote, we can train ourselves to open instead of close the circuits of perception.
Interesting. What do you think he meant by that?
Well, he seems to be encouraging a more conscious and deliberate way of observing the world.
Okay.
You know, instead of just passively absorbing information, we should actively engage with it, be open to new interpretations and possibilities.
So instead of just looking, we should really see.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
He challenges us to move beyond simply looking and to truly see.
Be present and receptive.
Yes, exactly. And it reminds me of the Zen principle of beginner's mind.
Beginner's mind. What's that about?
Well, it's about approaching experiences with a sense of openness and curiosity,
Good.
as if you're encountering them for the first time.
Like a child seeing the world anew.
Exactly, without preconceived notions or judgments.
So it's about cultivating that sense of wonder and openness
Yes,
to fully experience the world around us.
precisely. And this brings us back to Deadfall Trap Figure 4.
Okay.
You know, the way the trap is depicted so delicate and almost ghostly,
Yeah.
it encourages us to look beyond its literal function and consider its symbolism.
And the vast empty landscape that surrounds the trap.
Right.
It emphasizes the impermanence of all things.
Right.
The trap might symbolize human ingenuity and control,
Uh-huh.
but it's dwarfed by the landscape.
Yeah, it is.
A powerful reminder that nature ultimately has the final say.
You're right. It's a humbling perspective.
It is.
And Camblin seemed to embrace this fully. He wrote, "Find something in nature that completes you, and then surrender."
Wow.
He encourages us to let go of the ego's need to dominate and find a sense of wholeness through connection with the natural world.
So it's about recognizing our place within a larger system,
Yes.
accepting what's beyond our control.
Exactly. And that's a core principle of Zen Buddhism,
Right.
Accepting impermanence and finding peace in the present moment. And Camblin's quotes reflect a deep understanding of these principles.
Definitely, like when he talks about finding your own mystic switch,
Right.
it suggests tapping into a source beyond the conscious mind.
Right. And he reinforces this idea with the quote, "When Zen monks say that we are always the Buddha, but we keep forgetting it most of the time, I knew that, but now I know it."
So it sounds like he had a personal experience of this interconnectedness, this underlying unity that Zen points towards.
And for Camblin, art seemed to be a pathway to that deeper understanding.
Yeah.
He saw the creative process as a form of meditation,
Okay.
a way to quiet the mind and access a wellspring of wisdom beyond language and logic.
It's powerful stuff he wrote. Mirrors are not magic, they just seem to be. Everyone is a mirror, and that is magic. Laugh, laugh, laugh. It's almost like a playful reminder that true magic lies not in external objects,
Right.
but in our own ability to reflect and connect with the world.
And that laughter, that sense of playfulness is key. Remember his quote, "When understood, all truth is funny."
He challenges us to find the humor in life's absurdities, to laugh at our own attempts to control a universe that we can't possibly fully grasp.
It's about not taking ourselves too seriously,
Right.
finding joy in the midst of life's complexities.
This leads us to a crucial question. If the real seeing has its own property of deception, how can we cultivate a more authentic way of experiencing the world?
It's a challenge, isn't it?
It is a challenge.
To go beyond surface appearances,
Yeah.
delve deeper into perception, and be open to the possibility that what we see might not be the whole truth.
Maybe by embracing those Zen principles that informed Camblin's work.
Right.
Mindfulness, non-attachment,
Yes.
and the acceptance of impermanence, we can begin to experience the world in a more authentic and fulfilling way.
Camblin's unique perspective on art life and Zen philosophy is truly inspiring.
It is.
But let's shift gears a bit.
Okay.
We've talked about how Zen influenced his thinking,
Right.
but how did he actually incorporate these principles into his artistic process?
Good
Well,
question.
Camblin didn't just talk about Zen. He actively used its principles in his art.
Yeah.
He saw drawing as a form of meditation,
Okay.
a way to access a deeper state of awareness.
Right.
He talks about these action experiment drawings,
Action experiment drawings.
which were all about discoveries on paper.
Okay.
So it sounds like he approached them with this really playful, experimental mindset.
So instead of focusing on the finished product, he was more interested in that process of discovery.
Exactly. He wasn't attached to a specific outcome,
Right.
but let the act of drawing lead him to new insights. And then he contrasts these action drawings with slow analytic drawings.
Slow analytic drawings
Yes.
for discoveries in the world.
Okay, so it sounds like he saw those two as like two sides of the same coin.
Right.
These quick, intuitive explorations informing slower, more deliberate observations.
Exactly.
There's that balance that we keep talking about.
Right.
But then he also mentions conceptual drawings for
Yeah.
discoveries in your mind.
Right. So he saw drawing as this tool to explore not just the external world,
Yeah.
but also the internal landscape of thoughts and emotions.
Right.
And he even compared drawing to haiku,
Haiku. Okay.
where the idea is simple, but the reaction is profound.
What do you think he meant by that?
I think he was emphasizing the power of art to communicate on a level beyond words.
Right.
A haiku with its simple structure can evoke these complex emotions. It's
Oh.
the same with a drawing, It can convey an idea or feeling that words can't quite capture. You've hit the nail on the head, and Camblin believed that to tap into this nonverbal power, one must find his own mystic switch, the rising hackle or the visceral nod. This is a truth, but it changes.
Right. He's talking about accessing that deeper level of intuition, that creative spark we discussed earlier.
That mystic switch sounds fascinating,
It does.
but also a bit elusive. How do we find it?
Camblin believed it was about cultivating awareness, letting go of preconceived notions, and allowing intuition to guide the process.
Hmm.
Remember his words. One must learn not to look, but to see.
Wow.
And this really echoes Zen's emphasis on mindful observation.
It reminds me of the idea of being fully present in the moment,
Right.
noticing those small details that we might miss when our minds are racing.
Exactly. It's about really seeing, not just glancing over things.
Yeah.
And he takes this a step further. He says, one must try to fail in order to succeed. Success will be another failure. Process and awareness of it cannot be failure.
Whoa.
It really flips the script on our usual definitions,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
It definitely challenges our fear of failure.
It does.
He seems to be suggesting that embracing failure as part of the process is essential for growth and discovery.
I think so.
So by focusing on the journey rather than a specific outcome, we can free ourselves from that pressure to succeed and actually learn from our mistakes.
Right. He saw failure not as an endpoint, but as a stepping stone.
I like that.
It's a reminder to enjoy the process of creation, the exploration and experimentation, rather than getting hung up on the results.
This resonates so much with Camblin's fascination with Zen. It all circles back to that quote, when Zen monks say that we are always the Buddha, but we keep forgetting it most of the time. I knew that, but now I know it.
Right. It sounds like through his art and his engagement with the creative process, he actually experienced this interconnectedness,
Yeah.
this sense of oneness that Zen emphasizes.
It's so powerful to think that art can be more than just self-expression.
Yeah.
It can be a path to like spiritual awakening, a way to connect with something larger than ourselves.
And, Camblin didn't limit these Zen-inspired insights to just his art.
No.
He applied them to life perception, even humor, remember.
Right.
When understood, all truth is funny.
Yeah, he challenges us to find the humor in life's absurdities.
Right.
To laugh at our own attempts to control a universe that we can't possibly fully grasp.
It's about not taking ourselves too seriously,
Yeah.
finding joy in the midst of life's complexities. And as we wrap up this deep dive into Bob Camblin's world, I think he would leave us with one final thought-provoking question.
Okay.
If the real seeing has its own property of deception, how can we cultivate a more authentic way of experiencing the world?
That's a great question, one that will definitely stay with me.
It should urge us to look beyond the surface and question our assumptions about the world.
And maybe by embracing those Zen principles of mindfulness, non-attachment, and the acceptance of impermanence, we can start to move closer to a truly authentic experience of life.
I think so. Yeah, but Bob Camblin's art and philosophy really provide a roadmap for that journey.
And do.
He reminds us to embrace paradox, find the extraordinary in the ordinary, and always be open to new discoveries.
He encourages us to find our own mystic switch, to laugh at the cosmic joke, and to never stop exploring the vast and interconnected world around us. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating mind of Bob Camblin.